but like that was great. Next, I'm like, okay, I'm going into the next episode, and the next episode is just off rip Evil Morty. It just shows you how Evil Morty was made. Mind blown. And that happens within the first like 2-3 minutes. Just mind blown. I'm like, oh shit, this is where we're going, off rip. And that and me is just a loop. Everything that happens will always happen, and everything that will happen will eventually happen. And Rick Prime basically creates interdimensional travel, and I'm guessing this is the part I'm interpreting, but the rest is factual. This is the part I'm interpreting. For me to have interdimensional travel, I have to make it so Ricks always lose their wife and Beth. For me to create interdimensional travel, I have to be, and they show it with Morty, I have to be the smartest person in the universe, or in my universe, to create interdimensional travel, or else others will get there before me. And then Morty goes outside the central finite curve, which is outside all the possibilities, where Rick is the smartest, and you see it's just the wild, wild west. And it's a loop. It's going to sound like I'm going back and forth from the episode but it's really, I can't even say front to back, because it's just a loop, but I'm finishing the loop. For Rick to have interdimensional travel, he has to be the smartest person in that universe, or else that universe will be too dangerous to travel to. So that's the finite curve. All the universes where I'm the smartest. Not every universe Rick is the smartest, but all the universes Rick can jump between, he's the smartest in that universe, or was the smartest in that universe. He was the first in that universe, or that dimension, to create portal travel. Cool. So he created a machine, essentially, where he erases Diane, Rick's wife, from all universes, or a lot of universes. In those universes, essentially, not all, no, he erases her from all universes, not some, all. And then it comes down to, if it's added to the central finite curve or not, is, okay, I killed your wife. Are you now going to be the first one in this universe to create interdimensional travel? And all the universes he is are the finite curve. All the universes he's not aren't the finite curve. So obviously Rick C-137 was part of the finite. C-137, the reason why C-137 is the best Rick, or the Rickest of them all, is he's the one who sets in motion the Citadel of Ricks. Because he kills so many Ricks that the Ricks have to form a pact. So it's just the next piece of the puzzle. This Rick, for me to create interdimensional travel, my wife has to be dead. I guess he learned that. My wife has to be dead for me to invent. The only question leaving out of this is Rick Prime's story. Because obviously Rick Prime has the Summer, but you don't know if he has a Beth or not. Because obviously they stamp it. I kind of already knew that, but they show that Morty is Rick Prime's Morty. Rick is only here at C-137 to find Rick. And that's what Morty finds out, obviously, in the past season. Like, oh, you're not here because you love Mom and me and Summer. You're only here to find Rick Prime. Because I'm Rick Prime's Morty. I was just a clue to infinity. Literally, Morty's the clue to infinity. So cool. That ties in. C-137 is the Rickest Rick of them all, because, and really he's not. Rick Prime is really the Rickest Rick of them all, because he's the one who sets everything in motion. But Rick C-137 is the next important for two reasons. One, because he teams up with Evil Morty, and Evil Morty obviously is the first Morty to be smarter than a Rick, which is why he was able to run the Citadel, which that ties in. All Morty is a Morty that outsmarted Rick. All Evil Morty is the first Morty to kill Rick and then become smarter than a Rick. So C-137 just basically ignites this. I created C-137, creates the Citadel. The Citadel is created because one Rick out of all of the Ricks is on a hell-bent path to get revenge. And obviously they'll show you there's like 4 or 5 other Ricks that are also on the trail of Rick Prime, but they're not Rick C-137. Rick C-137 was the best Rick to find Rick Prime. So basically Rick Prime is the rickest Rick of them all, and Rick C-137 is the Rick to kill the rickest Rick of them all, which technically means you are the rickest Rick of them all, if you're following me. Technically, because you killed the best Rick, so that technically would make you the best Rick now. But obviously right before he kills him, it was the most satisfying thing, obviously. While Rick Prime is getting punched to death. Rick Prime did beat Rick in a one-on-one, by the way, and loses because Rick has Evil Morty with him at the time. So it all ties in. Evil Morty had to be there at that time, at that moment, for this to work. If he didn't, Rick would have died, and then the loop would have continued. Or, well, the loop Prime laughs at him while he says this, if I didn't do it, you would have. If I didn't kill your Beth, you eventually would have killed your Beth. You were so fixating, and because he shows him, Rick was fixated on creating a device that makes things infinite. That's how time travel is created, infinity. When he created infinity, he tried to make, obviously, Rick be able to be the smartest person in infinity. How does he do that? He kills Beth. And that's how interdimensional travel is created. So it's like, fam, if you didn't kill my Beth and my wife, if I didn't kill yours, if I didn't kill your Beth and wife, you would have killed mine, because you would have wanted to do what I'm doing. And what am I doing? I'm the person who created interdimensional time travel, or interdimensional travel. Not you. I did. You were just a piece to that. And then he kills him. And that, and I don't exaggerate, probably was the best episode of the whole series. It was the last puzzle piece. It tied and now it's like episodes, and now it's like we knew interdimensional time travel, everything is possible. But this was the piece on why everything is possible. Why infinity? Why interdimensional travel? This was the last piece to that. This sewed up the whole, how is there Evil Morty? Where does Evil Morty come from? Oh, Evil Morty is just, eventually when you get to a certain amount of Mortys in the universe, there will be one Morty, one in one dimension, that ends up being smarter than a Rick. That has a domino effect of, okay, now I have one Morty that's just as smart as a Rick, so I essentially have 2 Ricks. And these 2 Ricks team up to kill the Rick who created infinity. Morty's only doing it not because he hates Rick, but because Rick interferes with him doing his own stuff in his own dimension where he's the smartest. And then obviously Rick C-137 wants to kill him because he killed his wife. So those 2 things have to happen. That's why I said they tied Evil Morty in, because now it's like, oh, Evil Morty had to be here at this time, at this fight, for them to kill him. Because if he wasn't, Rick would have never killed him. And then he would have died trying. And then Evil Rick would have never, you mean, if Evil Morty was never created, they would have never killed this Rick. So Morty had to be there. One of the best episodes ever, if not the best. I'm not going to be a hype beast. I'm going to let it sit. But right now, yeah, to me, that was the best episode he ever created. So it was like, yes, the voice acting was a little funny, and I had to get that out the way, but do not this was maybe one of the, again, top 3 season, but the best 4 episodes of this season could go with 4 episodes of any season, or any 4 episodes of Rick and Morty, period. So that was that. That was, to me, probably, that was the climax. Episode 5 was the climax of the season, probably not probably, was the climax of the series to this point. It tied in everything. Morty had everything happen, and that's what I meant. Time was a loop. Everything happened the way it happened because it had to happen that way. It's the grandfather paradox. It's if you go back in time to kill your grandfather so you're never born, cool, you're never born. But if you're never born, how would you have gone back in time? It's a paradox. You have to go back in time. If you're alive, that means you go back in time. For you to go back in time, that means you have to be alive. And if you're alive, that means you going back in time, we already know that you're not going to achieve what you went back in time to achieve. Because if you killed your grandfather, you wouldn't be alive. And if you weren't alive, you couldn't go back to kill your grandfather. So if you go back in time, we know already that whatever you do in the past not only won't change the future, what you do in the past is going to make the future the future. What you do in the past is why the future happens the way it is. You going in the past to stop your grandfather from marrying your grandmother inevitably will cause them to marry each other. And that's what this was. Rick killing Rick C-137 killing Rick Prime had to happen. It had to happen because it would scare Rick, the original Rick. Rick Prime, maybe not scared isn't the word, but Rick Prime thought, okay, there's infinite me's. And that means one me in a different universe could pop out of my garage at any point and kill me. Do I want to be the Rick that gets his family killed, or do I want to be the Rick that kills? And he in that moment chose, I want to be the Rick that kills, instead of being the Rick who gets killed, or the Rick who, oh, I saw my wife and daughter die in my face. I want to be the Rick that does that so I don't have to carry that pain. So it was just a loop, a big major loop. And that was the best episode to me. It tied in the interdimensional travel. It tied in everything with a nice little bow on it. Obviously, not obviously, but I'm thinking though maybe do another Evil Morty episode, but I don't even need that for a while. Like, I don't. It was such a great, from you've seen the first Evil Morty, and you're like, oh shit, why is that Evil Morty? And that goes into the Citadel, and it's like, oh, how did the Citadel get here? It's making you ask more questions than answers. It's giving you, let's say, it'll give you 2 answers, but it'll give you 5 questions. It's like, oh, where are we going? So then in the Citadel, and then it's like, oh, there's a Morty about to be president, and you don't even tie in, oh, that was the Evil Morty from that episode, but you don't even tie that in yet. It's like, oh, that Evil Morty is about to be the president, but why does he want to be the president? And how is Morty smarter than a Rick? And that goes into Evil Morty blasting away. Y'all going to escape the infinite, and then you see how Mortys are made, and it's like, oh, Mortys are made in a very unethical, unconventional, unmoral way. With, Rick's artificially making the Mortys and whatnot. And then that goes into, oh, the Citadel was created because Rick was looking for the Rick who killed his family. Oh, why did the Rick kill his family? And then you don't see that until now. Rick killed his family because Rick wanted to be the Rick that started interdimensional time travel. That's why Rick Prime really is the Rickest Rick of them all. Rick Prime is really the person. He might not have thought about interdimensional travel first, but he's the first one to create it. He's the first one to set all the events off. And then that just goes into I'm sorry, I'm just blabbering right now, but it was just such a great time loop. It just reminds me of something like Tenet or Black Mirror. It's just that level of depth. It's literally that level of depth. And that just amazing episode. It was just like, wow. So we now know that. And then that just ties into Evil Morty. Now that's going to tie into Evil Morty doing something else. We don't know yet, but obviously this part of the loop is closed. What Evil Morty does technically will, if I'm thinking about it right, will set off its own chain of events now. This is all the universes that where Rick isn't the smartest. Let's see how these universes look. And now the episode obviously ends where Morty gets the weapon. Rick is obviously so blinded by Ray's, not blinded, but he doesn't care, and that's why the episode got set in motion the way it did. It's not that Rick doesn't want that weapon. It's just he has to ask himself, do I want the weapon or do I want the revenge? And he also has to ask himself, am I fine with a Morty being smarter than me? Am I fine with one of my previous sidekicks now being the quote-unquote Batman, the quote-unquote smarter link, the smarter piece of our friendship? And at the end of the day, he chooses that he would rather get revenge than continue to be the smartest person ever. And he essentially passes the torch to Morty when you think about it, because now he's not allowed, because Morty obviously took it. Morty earned it, but he kind of says, I don't care if Morty's the smartest in the universe anymore. I got what I wanted out of it. He got what he wanted out of it. It's mutually beneficial. And to touch on the grandfather paradox, now that Morty has this weapon that can wipe everything from existence, I would assume it's similar to a grandfather paradox, as in he can't make it so, I'm just speculating, he can't make it so certain things never existed, because maybe that would make it so he was never the smartest person. You get what I'm saying? Like, let's say he made it so Rick never existed in any universes. That means he would never have known about interdimensional space travel and all the things. So I'm assuming there's certain things he can and cannot do in terms of erasing things from the universe, because that would make it so he doesn't even get to this point. Sorry for the wonky audio. I recorded a lot of that in my car, and it was like, damn, I was cooking. I didn't want to re-record it. It was just like, that was all off the top of the head. But part 2 will be coming soon. The audio will be a lot better, I promise. I'm actually going to record it as a voiceover, not in my car. But if you like the video, like, subscribe. Let me know you guys enjoyed it, and I appreciate you. Thank you.